It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon, and welcome to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and for the next hour, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. That's 617-297-8388. Now, you can text that like you would any text. It appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and we'll try to work it into the conversation. Don't forget the station does stream like thousands of other radio stations do 24/7 on the TuneIn app. So if you have the app, just seconds to get it. And then punch in WCRN. You'll see our cool logo. Do me a favor, hit the like button. We know you're there, and we're easy to find. You can tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked. Now, I do stream the show, as do some of the other hosts here, live from the WCRN studios in this case. So you can go to our Facebook page, AM 830 WCRN, our YouTube channel, and my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI. So it'd be X and Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to Rumble. So there is a channel there, so you can go there and watch it. And all past shows are there as well. And don't forget, it is turned into a podcast, so you can subscribe for the show like you do a podcast at Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio. You know the drill on that stuff. 508-871-7000. Today, behind the glass phone on the board today, he'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. So, Ted, you were there Friday. This past Friday, we had the Jill Doherty talk about her book, My Russia, What I Saw in the Kremlin. And she was at the Hanover event. We promoted it, and you could have registered. Anyone was welcome to come. You were there.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
Very fantastic. She's put together well, as my mother would say. Very elegant, very articulate woman, and I think she did a fantastic job relaying some of the stories, answering some of the questions. And despite some, I guess, rumors out there, this wasn't an audience loaded with conservatives or right-wing people. I think that rumors is no. Most of the people there, I think, came from clients of some of our sponsors and not necessarily listeners, although there were a lot of listeners there.
There were a lot of familiar faces in the audience.
Absolutely. Good crowd there. They always do a really good job at the Hanover.
Chris Thompson is just an amazing resource.
Yeah, our former boss here is over at the Hanover, Chris Thompson, Dr. Thompson, and he is doing a great job over there. I had a wonderful time meeting some people I haven't met in person, which was nice. I know some of the questions I think you might have thought was out of crazy because they weren't really connected to the Russian thing, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I thought we were there for talk about Putin and an illustrious career, but of course some in the audience saw it as an opportunity to get some attention for themselves.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be a beat up on Trump function, but nonetheless it was a good time. Thank you, Jerry Doherty from Boston Independence Group.
An amazing opportunity.
Yeah, exactly, for putting that on. And of course, if you missed it a week ago last Wednesday, so it'll be 2 Wednesdays ago from this Wednesday, you can go to the Facebook page, again, the Rumble page, whatever. You can look it up. It's on all my social media. Jill joined me. Again, it will be 2 Wednesdays ago, for majority of the hour, talking about the book and her experience there. And actually, after the show, Ted, we talked for about 45 more minutes because she had to go off to some other interview. That's the 45 minutes I wish I could have aired. Because, we were off air and she was relaxed and she, was a little more free about telling some of the stories and experiences there. But she's headed back to Eastern Ukraine and is going to kind of tour there for 3 or 4 weeks and makings of maybe another book, but it'll be fascinating. Look forward to that. And Jill has a standing invitation to come back anytime she wants.
If you want to hear that interview from 2 or was it 2?
It will be 2 weeks ago Wednesday, or a week ago last Wednesday.
So you can find that on the hosts section
of
WCRNradio.com.
Go to the replay link. Yeah, just click on my the Joe Mangiacotti show and go back to the date, and it will say the date. So just go back 2 Wednesdays and listen to it. But if you subscribe to the podcast, you would have it loaded down there anyhow. All right, 508-871-7000 is how you join the conversation. I don't know if you guys got this in as a Sutton, I think. It's kind of a meme now, and it's kind of funny because we have a woman in Massachusetts, looks like a Karen type of woman, who decided that it was her job to protest ICE. Now, as a side on this, guys, when did it become okay or acceptable to interfere with law enforcement? I mean, do we see people?
I don't think so.
Like
Joe.
jump in between police who are in the middle of apprehending a bank robber or a shoplifter or DUI? I mean, if you have a problem with the law, you know what you do? You run for office and you become part of the branch of government that writes the law, or you get a legislator to sponsor a bill. You do it in a civilized, normal way, the way the system works. You don't get to pick and decide what laws you think should be followed. And you certainly don't get to interfere, especially with a federal law enforcement agency while they're doing their job.
That's not peaceful demonstration.
The demonstration is so far from that. It's as she thinks she's demonstrating, but she's interfering.
It's a corrupt, riotous act.
And so there's a woman, I'm going to call her, she's a Karen, apparently, obviously she is. And she was protesting ICE, the enforcement they were doing. So she inadvertently, because she was probably so focused on doing her Karen thing, that she let her car roll into the lake while she was, speeching, yelling and telling ICE how horrible they are and all this stuff. And according to the report, she left the vehicle in neutral. She didn't set the parking brake. And a lot of bystanders captured this video. So that's one good thing about everybody having a phone. You do get some pretty good video from time to time.
They call that instant karma now.
Yeah, it does. Exactly. And the car slowly sliding right into the water as she railed against ICE operations. Now, no one's injured. Nobody got hurt. The car is really not doing that well. Water is not a good thing for a car to be submerged in. It went viral, right? Drawing both ridicule and debate over the nature of anti-ICE protests and in enforcing immigration. Again, that's not your job. And she could very well be looking at charges if it's deemed that she was interfering with the lawful duties of a law enforcement.
How about the cost of getting the car out of the water?
That's her problem. Yeah, good. And you know what? To the insurance company, maybe you got to ask her, well, do you need to take driving lessons? Do we have to have you do not know how to put your car in park? You do not know what an emergency brake? Again, obviously this woman was just so focused on the righteous duty she had before her that she forgot about the car, or maybe she sacrificed her car because it saved a couple of seconds. I don't know what was going on in the gap between the ears on that.
Well, can I quote Trump here? I mean,
Various
I don't
quotes.
think she knew what was going on.
No. And clear she doesn't, because whatever you think you're doing has absolutely no effect on ICE's duties at that moment. You get that? There is not a case of anywhere where if you protest enough, the police in that situation go, all right, that's too much friction. I'm not going to do my job. The only thing close to that is when Nummy there ordered the evacuation of a police station in the Summer of Love so they could burn it down. That's about the closest thing. But otherwise, it's like the drunk driver. And there's plenty of this on the net. Sometimes I'll watch it on Facebook just for entertainment, where they decide they're going to try their OUI case on the side of the road at 2 a.m. That's not the time or place. There's a courtroom for that. And do they really think they're going to talk the police officer out of arresting him when they're blotted? Do you think you're going to talk ICE or intimidate ICE or any federal agency from doing what they're set out to do? The answer is no, you're not. Not at all. So I don't know, protesting, it's peaceful. You have the right to protest. You can hold whatever sign you want, but you cannot interfere with the operation. You cannot be assaulting these ICE officers. And we recently saw someone protesting ICE took the life of an actual detainee and injured two others.
It's reckless.
It's beyond reckless. It's criminal in its actions, folks. And ICE often, involve individuals who have violated other laws. I mean, they're not. This isn't okay. You illegally entered 8 years ago, and you've never been on the radar system since then. These are people. The first people that ICE are going to arrest are the people who have the final removal orders, who are facing charges of, and they range. Look at. I've got tons of stories here we can go over. Rape and assault and battery.
They're already in the system.
Exactly. And they put themselves on the radar screen. All right, folks. We're coming up to the first break here on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. And reminding you that we are streaming from the studios. I'm in the palatial but not overly ostentatious studios here at WCRN. High atop the Carberry Towers. And you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. The lines are open and available. Stick with us. We're going to be back 2 minutes, 2 seconds on the other side.
Did you know most chicken restaurants fry their food in inflammatory canola oil, the kind linked to chronic inflammation and health issues? At New Chicken, we're rewriting the fast food playbook. Located at 318 Park Avenue in Worcester, Mass., we serve up delicious comfort food with a conscience. Our chicken is humanely raised and free from hormones and antibiotics. Then fried in clean, heart-smart avocado oil packed with nutrients and flavor. And our fries, forget the greasy stuff. Ours are cooked in traditional, savory beef tallow. It's how fries used to taste before processed oils took over. No factory oils, no synthetic shortcuts, just real, honest food made for people who care about what goes in their bodies. At New Chicken, your health doesn't get sidelined for convenience. You get both, the flavor you crave and ingredients that matter. Stop by today and taste the difference. New Chicken, where fast food finally grows up.
Are you looking for a holistic approach to your health? One that supports your body's natural ability to regulate, adapt, regenerate, and heal? Look no further. The Bioregulatory Medical Institute, BRMI, a nonprofit global organization dedicated to advancing the science and art of bioregulatory medicine, welcomes you to their free and rich library of resources. You'll find articles, podcasts, videos, and more at brmi.online. BRMI believes health freedom is a basic human right, honoring medical ethics and the innate intelligence of the human body. When your body is properly supported, it will thrive. If you're looking for the root cause of illness, physical, emotional, or spiritual, visit brmi.online. brmi.online.
All right, folks, welcome back here. The second segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you that you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Like Mark did. Mark's waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Well, I'm saying that another mass shooting in Michigan, I believe, at a Mormon temple or Mormon church or however they choose to call it. You know, it seems to me I'm seeing a pattern here of non-compos mentis terrorists, and they seem to have a problem with churches and temples and anything to do with God. They seem to have all that, despite all their non-compos mentis machinations. They all seem to have that one common denominator. They got a problem with churches. They got a problem with people who go to church. They got a problem, it looks to me like, with God. Why would they have that problem? What are they, all El Diablos?
Well, I think, Mark, some of it could be traced right back to the removal of God from so many things, right? From the town square to the classroom. That might have been one of the first steps into this. And then you've got this rhetoric, right? I mean, they are going, unless you're a certain religion. Do you notice there's one particular religion, Mark, that they don't seem to criticize? Is it out of fear or respect?
Or the Muslims?
Do you hear a lot of criticism? And anyone who criticizes them seems to be called names, right? Islamophobic.
You get more than names.
Yeah.
That guy,
a fatwa.
The Rushdie got a fatwa on his, on his person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a fatwa. You know what they are, don't you?
Fatwa. Yeah, it's basically, we would call it a hit.
That's where the caliph under Muslim law signs your death warrant. That's what a fatwa is, and he's got one on him because he messed with the wrong people.
Well, I think that's a matter of perspective. But yeah, that was the that the cartoon one? No, that was France, right? That was France, the magazine in France, who did some kind of cartoon that didn't make Allah look great. But Rushdie was on a stage when somebody after him. But yeah, the fatwa. Mark, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah. Obviously, Mark is making that observation. Let's look back at recent incidences around the churches, and these things have been happening, with people there while they're worshiping, and they're clearly targeted. And I look at this pushback from certain people in the media. These talking heads are like, well, what do you mean it's targeted? How can you get there? How can you not get there? Clearly it's targeted. Now, the Michigan shooting, I was watching some of the press release that they had before coming in. So I wasn't going to really do that today because I was looking for more details on that. We might touch on it more tomorrow. But going on today, a little earlier, Robinson was in court. This is the alleged Charlie Kirk murderer, 22-year-old Utah man. He's been charged with everything from aggravated murder in the killing of Charlie Kirk to various other charges that they threw in there. So he was there today, but it was video, but they didn't have him. It was just kind of a black box. His next appearance will actually be in person. We've seen him already, right? They do that, and he has the anti-suicide vest on, and he's coming to the court via the video link. But they're saying, at least they were in the hearings today, that the next court appearance, he will physically be there in person. And this had to do with the waiving of his right to the preliminary hearing. So we will watch this. We will see this out. So this case basically involves the fundamental due process rights. Look, they've got to be, the defense is like drinking out of a fire hose right now. There is overwhelming evidence that they got there between the videos, the DNA, the fingerprints, the text messages, the note that the roommate or partner, whatever this person is deemed, because I got to tell you something. I don't know if you saw the text, Ted. It was the passion was coming from Robinson. The roommate / boyfriend seemed to be more concerned or acting surprised that it happened, which either was he was smart enough to say this is obviously going to be, in a courtroom someday, So I am not saying honey or love or anything of that nature, and I'm acting very surprised. Either it was a great act or these feelings seem to be one way. It wasn't coming from the roommate. So I'm wondering how that's going to play out. But we also have a situation where it was his family who talked with their minister to surrender him. So this puts them in the prosecution's side of the aisle. So this is going to be interesting when it comes to trial if they don't strike a plea deal. Now, he had the wherewithal to be concerned about not making the arrest, making it out alive. He was very concerned that he was going to be shot during the manhunt. Now, he didn't give any of that ability of concern or consideration to Charlie Kirk, but that's what he was concerned about. So I'm wondering that if his clear level of self-preservation kicks in here and he decides to plea out to make sure he doesn't end up with a needle in his arm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You know, Joe, this is a great opportunity to speak to the members of our audience that have been impatient with law enforcement. You got to understand, in order to close a case, everything has to be done by the book.
Yeah.
There has to be a chain of evidence that's displayed to the judge and the jury. You can't just wing this. You
Not at
have
all.
to be patient.
Yeah. You do have to be patient, and they are going to make sure, and regardless of the fact that there is an abundance of evidence here, they have to cross every T, dot every I. They have to follow every procedure because it is the job of the defense to question everything. And the reason for questioning everything, and they will file brief after brief, and they will try
the
to
way it
exclude, exactly. They will try to exclude as much of the evidence that they can and ask any experienced defense attorney that is what they do. They chip away at it. If they can get key pieces thrown out because of procedural or there was a problem with the chain of custody or anything along that line, if they can get enough evidence thrown out of court, it can never be presented in court and therefore never weighed by the jury. And it's possible for people to be found not guilty. I didn't say innocent, not guilty in a court of law because the jury's not allowed to hear certain evidence. So they want to be very, very detail oriented in this and do it correctly. And it takes time. It takes time. Even in politically charged cases, and even with everything we saw, the presumption of innocence is a must hold. It is part of the cornerstone of our judicial system that we are presumed innocent, and it is up to the state
To prove guilt.
beyond a reasonable doubt. So the state's decision to seek the death penalty in this case raises serious constitutional, moral, and of course procedural issues, because that takes multiple steps too. In a death case penalty, you don't get found guilty and the judge says, okay, you'll be executed next week. It doesn't work like this, because there's the trial and you're found guilty. Then there's a whole nother, in essence, trial as to the sentencing and whether the death penalty will be imposed. And that's a whole nother procedure that could literally take
we're talking
years.
About Utah,
Yeah.
they have a little bit different system of moving a case along than we have in Massachusetts.
That's true. Plus, they have them sit on the lap when they do the electric chair. It saves time and electricity. But it's still a very detailed, long procedure. And this is why, given the way the surrender happened, I wouldn't be surprised, again, in his clear self-interest and self-preservation, he decides to strike a deal. And that's that. And it, we saw that with the college, Klobuchar, Burger, or whatever, where we were looking, we're going to have this long, drawn-out trial, and he strikes a deal. And so, yep, there's a guilty verdict entered and all that, and it's done, but the trial doesn't happen to the level we thought. I would not be surprised if young Robinson here decides, if I can take the death penalty off the table, then I'll change the plea. It happens often. Now, the integrity of the evidence and the handling. So there's always the method in which it's gathered, right? Who gathered it? And they'll go after all that. Who gathered it? Who's the tech that did it? What's their experience? How many crime scenes have they worked? What's their education? Remember a few years ago, we had this case. It was in Massachusetts. Somebody lied basically on their CV, on their credentials. And that put every single case that tech worked in jeopardy.
I think it was 4 years of cases.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They had been working for a while because every defense attorney, again, this is their job. Well, that's an opportunity for me to file a brief, file an appeal, reopen the case, and attack it. And they're going to do this. So you've got the evidence itself and the integrity of that evidence, and you've got it in a parallel of the handling of the evidence, the surveillance, the chain of custody. Once something's taken in, it's documented. Every time a police officer, anybody touches it, they have to date it, they have to initial it. And if there's any break in this, in a break in chain of custody, that it's fruit of the rotten tree. It's thrown out. And anything that came from that evidence is now not admissible because it's the fruit of that tree, or as they say, the fruit of the rotten tree. So everything goes out. And if they can chip away enough of it, this happens. So given the amount, and even we got a break here, but the defense seemed overwhelmed, in my opinion, watching the presser earlier. They didn't even know how they were going to attack this. This is a lot of stuff coming. But we have to take the mid-show break here on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Vicki Graff, and here's your latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. After another bright and warmer day, we're going to cool off into the 50s overnight tonight. For your Tuesday, still plenty of sunshine with temperatures above average with mid-70s and lower humidity. A dry front will move through, and that's going to reinforce some cooler temperatures starting Wednesday, so highs in the low 60s and mornings in the low 40s. I'm Vicki Graff, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Monday edition here, the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 for the remainder of this hour. Ken has been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Hello, Joe.
Hey.
You mentioned that you'll be doing some research coming back tomorrow on the Michigan murder.
Yeah.
And notice very distinctively. I said the Michigan murders. Don't use the left lingo shooting. That was just one of 3 elements of carnage that he doled out. So here is a quickie on how to find out what happened. Go to YouTube, type in on your search, Dave Bondy, Bondy. That's the name of the person with the channel who did an interview.
Yeah, didn't he end up talking to somebody who was canvassing and ended up talking to this guy?
I'm curious. How did you pick that up?
I heard it on a radio at some point today.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I did it this morning. Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So you're hearing it secondhand from. Well, I'm stating this the second time, and as many channels as possible because it was so revealing. One of the best 8 minutes I've ever spent in my life. It was that good.
So a candidate happens to knock on this alleged guy's door, and didn't I thought I heard you say it went south when they got to Mormons.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
To say the least.
So
Which is
clearly
soft.
targeted. I mean, I've heard some talking heads try to not use that and say, well, you don't really know. How is the government able to say it's targeted? You don't know that. Like,
Literally,
seriously?
these talking heads don't have the capacity that I had to find this. That makes it very clear what the truth is. That's our problem today. We have way too many people with jobs where the vast majority of them don't want to do it because it doesn't fit their narrative. We want to control the world.
And they're lazy. They're lazy.
No,
I
no,
think,
no.
you know, I agree with you on yes, because and I've said this before, Ken. There's, you know, the reporter is one thing, but do not let the editors and the news directors off. The editors and the news directors, they set the tone. They allow this. And as a guy who worked a lot of newsrooms, the news director tells you, keep your politics out of that. Why did you say that? Where'd you get that source? What are you talking about? No. Deliver the news. Stop with that. That doesn't happen anymore. So these publishers, whether it's the New Yorker or the New York Times or whatever it is, they're the ones who are putting these people with agendas and activists, and they're giving them press credentials, and they're letting them do their propaganda.
You know how people say, I go and listen to one show and it's the exact same phrase on every TV station, every radio station. Well, Joe, maybe I should ask you, because I didn't work as many hours in the newsroom as I know you have, but I remember being taught that rip and read was taboo. Rip and read was lazy. Take the information, check the information, and then write your own words.
Yeah. Back in the day, we'd have the AP wire, and it was the old dot matrix with the little holes on the side, and it would and cut it out. And rip and read, to what, for those who didn't catch what that is, I think you can infer, you would literally go over to the printer and you'd rip the thing off, and you'd have AP and then Dateline. Remember the old Dateline from Des Moines, Iowa, and you'd read it. But what you're reading is news that was fed to the AP, regurgitated by an AP reporter who wrote it up, hit the wire, and it went out. As a news person, you get that. That's how you know it broke. But then, yes, to Ted's point, you start checking it out. You make phone calls. Maybe you get audio. But you can rip and read, but you're literally an announcer. You're not a news person at that point. You get that.
An actor.
Yeah. So, Ken, I agree 100%. I'm just, my point to this is, I put it more on the director, the news directors and the editors, because they've set that tone.
Joe, the two of you have described principles of the profession that existed 30 plus years ago.
True.
So the 21st century people who are pretending, that might as well have been 500 years ago. They have thrown all of that out. Gone. No, there's nobody, particularly New England, following what you just described. Nobody.
Yeah.
No one.
And here's the thing, to you, the listeners, you gotta make your point with deciding not to watch or listen or read those publications. And we see that CNN losing viewership by hundreds of thousands. Same with ABC, right? We just watched this whole Kimmel thing and everything. And of course, if he hadn't been suspended for a few days, it probably wouldn't have been common knowledge about how much he made and how many millions they were losing. We went through that with Colbert, right? $20 million loss plus every year. Same thing with Kimmel. They're losing $10-15 million a year. Why? Because shows that used to have 3-4 million viewers, they're down to 170,000. They're down to 300,000 in a 380 million country population.
And it's only because their college professors make them to report on it the next day.
Yeah, that's true too. I still think that a lot of these people, whether it's Brian Stelter or it used to be Joy Reid or whatever, they got more recognition or airtime because Gutfeld would play a clip and make fun of them than they did on their actual. So Don Lemon does especially. But you're right. I agree with you, Ken. It's what I was describing and what it was for me in a newsroom in the 80s and 90s doesn't happen today.
And you said you heard something. And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. And then you said, no, you heard it from me on a different show.
Yeah.
That tells you everything. Nobody else in New England, other than listening to these two shows, knows anything about this.
Well, I saw it on YouTube this morning.
I caught this on YouTube this morning because I am after this stuff. So guess what? I have an algorithm feed that just happens, and it's like, boom.
Sure.
They know I'm going to follow this.
Yeah. I mean, that's one good thing when you start to find these YouTube channels or even some X accounts where you have the citizen journalists out there and people like Andy No, right? I'm sure, Ken, you must know Andy No.
Oh, boy, do I know.
I mean, here's
I've known
this.
him for about 10 years.
Yeah. And he's doing great work. And for listeners who don't know who I'm referencing, he's he's a gay Asian X account, and he has YouTube channel. He's citizen reporter, but he's elevated now. And he was in the heart, I mean, in the belly of the beast in the Summer of Love and Antifa, and he was reporting the truth, and they kicked the crap out of him.
That was the year before.
Was he? Well, he's gotten beat up a couple times.
He almost died.
Yeah, they beat him within an inch of his life, and he's out there telling the truth, and he's reporting. And look at what the left has done to this guy. And when I say left, I don't mean the moderate Democrat who happens to be. You know what I mean? The extreme left that are just out of control.
Let's just keep calling it over and over again. Antifa.
Oh, but they don't have a headquarters, Ken. They're not a real thing. There's no actual address. They don't have a headquarters. Antifa's not a real thing.
It doesn't matter. It's what's in the spirit of people's brain. It's what happened in Utah. It's what happened in Michigan yesterday. It's everywhere. Wake up, folks.
The real problem is that we need to reopen a lot of our mental institutions.
Yeah, I'm not going to make the obvious joke there about who should be put in there, but the point is,
I set you up.
Yeah, that's okay. I know. I'm not going to take that bait on that one. But here's the thing. Actually, in all seriousness, back in the 80s, under the Reagan administration, they did close. We closed a lot of asylums and a lot of mental health facilities, and those people didn't have a lot of alternatives, because if there wasn't something that kept them in the mainstream hospital setup, and they didn't have the family structure to watch them and support them, they would end up on the streets. They would end up part of the homeless population. And you don't get better just by living longer. So we have this situation today. And Trump has brought this up about doing this. And the other thing is, right, where did they used to put mental health facilities, asylums? In the country, in the peaceful setting, in the woods. But no, we're allowing people with mental illness to try to exist in the noisy, dirty, crowded, crazy streets of our cities which isn't doing any of us or doing our mental health to any of us. Have you walked down a New York street lately?
It's cruel, Joe.
It is
really
cruel. It is cruel. And the argument about for homeless people that it's cruel to try to, move them to a facility or do something, that's the cruel. No. Knowing that somebody's hurting and in pain and in that situation and not helping them in the way that's a positive way, that is cruel. Ken, we're against the clock. Final thoughts?
The nearby woman with her vehicle going into the
I think was it Upton, I think, right?
Okay, whichever. She probably, one of her close friends is a Worcester City Council woman. Eureka Street spirit.
Got it. So, yeah, the video is priceless. Absolutely priceless. Ken, thank you for the call. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, look, again, back to this ICE thing. You don't have a right to interfere, guys. You just do not have a right to interfere. But I do want to cover, and we're going to have to take a break in a minute, but we have this Des Moines, Iowa, Des Moines school superintendent who was arrested by ICE. And think about this. Illegally here, then had a final removal. I'll get into this. Ian Andre Roberts, superintendent of the Des Moines public school system. He's from Ghana. And he was illegally present in the country. And ICE came in and they arrested him. We'll talk about this. How does somebody become the superintendent of a major school system like this? Very interesting. But
Maybe
we do have
nobody wanted the job.
Yeah, that's true. Just being the superintendents that Americans don't want to be is what that comes down to, I guess. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. That's 508-871-7000. Don't forget the text line running at 617-297-8388. Fourth and final coming up. So we'll be back in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Stick with us.
This October, Polar Park presents Boo in the Woo. The adult version is a haunted restoration tour with zombie-infested locker rooms, eerie tunnels, and decaying batting cages. Join us if you dare.
But don't worry, children can enjoy the weekends with Boo in the Woo for kids, with pumpkin decorating, carnival games, and family fun for all ages. Get your tickets now at polarpark.com/boo. This October, it's Boo in the Woo, just for you.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
And I need the best cuisine for an event. My answer, Ziti. For that special catered event in your home, at church, temple, or a meeting house, Ziti's Restaurante, Speedway Plaza in Westboro. Ziti.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Fourth and final segment here on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Lines open and available, or text us at 617-297-8388. And don't forget, you can always watch and listen on our social media platforms, either WCRN Facebook page, YouTube channel, or my Social media, right? Joe Mangi Show, MANGIX, and Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and of course, Rumble.
If you tuned in late and you want to hear the first part of the show, at the end of the show, just go to WCRNradio.com, search hosts for Joe Mangiacotti, and you can listen to the first part. I know it happens.
It does happen. A lot of people actually listen because they're at work at 1 o'clock. A lot of people listen later in the day. But anyway, Des Moines School Superintendent Ian Andre Roberts, superintendent of the Des Moines Public Schools from Ghana, has been here illegally present in the country. Now, ICE arrested him, and he fled. And when they actually reached out to him, they were going to kind of do this as a, hey, you need to come in and talk to us because there was a final removal order issued to this guy. So if you don't, a final removal order is a formal order from an immigration judge. So the due process happened, folks. Yeah. And or a board of immigration appeals. So either the judge or you appeal it. And the point is, it comes back. The decision is, yeah, we have found no reason for you to be able to stay in the country. You broke the law. You illegally entered, and you have no grounds in order to stay here. So it's a final removal order. And a non-citizen must be removed from the U.S. federal law, INA. It gives ICE the authority to arrest and detain individuals subject to those orders. So he received that. And when they tried to, the guy was the sitting superintendent. So they tried initially to, let's have a talk. We have a problem here. And he fled. And according to the officials involved, and this is saying he was driving a district-owned vehicle. So not only was he superintendent with a very nice salary and some perks, he had a municipal vehicle issued to him. But when they stopped him and they got him, he was carrying a handgun, about $3,000 in cash, with the final removal order in the books. Now, the school officials, guess what? They're reviewing their hiring and vetting practices. You know the old saying, the time to shut the gate is before the herd gets out. Probably a good idea. What were your vetting practices and hiring policies prior to this? And of course, the district and the community, they're seeking answers here. Now, both criminal and administrative investigations are going to be going on. District vehicle, handgun, possession, fled ICE. What about the safety of the students and staff? How did he get this job? What are the credentials? This is crazy story.
But Joe, this is just an isolated incident.
They always are. They always are. What was the background check? Exactly. In the immigration, we got to E-Verify. Now, I know there's a lot of criticism. The E-Verify doesn't always work and people fall through, but did they even use it at all?
Was it even done?
That's my question. We'll have to see what this is, but immigration status maybe should be verified and references.
What state is this, Joe?
Des Moines, Iowa.
Do you have to check in with the police chief when you get
not nowadays.
gun permit?
It used to be. In the days like my grandparents came over, they went through Ellis Island. You came in, you had to have a sponsor, which meant somebody who said, no, they can live with us, we'll feed them, they're not going to be a burden. But you used to have to check in with the local police department every 30 days.
Don't you still have to check in if you have a firearms permit?
An immigrant shouldn't have a firearms permit.
My point is this. If he had to register for a firearms permit, he would have had to go to the local police station and register. Why wouldn't they check
I haven't been able
them?
to find anything that he legally had this gun.
Oh.
So I'm assuming he's illegally had it because there were too many other things, to your point, that they would have done. Look, we got to, those that carry permit here in Massachusetts. We got to do that every few years, and they do it. They do it. Trust me. I recently did mine, and the lieutenant I spoke with, and they knew everything, as to anything that happens. They do that. They take that very seriously. I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't assume here, but if he had how did he get a permit to carry? Who issued him that? But I don't know if I was open carry or not. That's the other thing.
Yeah. The other question is, was there a serial number on the weapon?
Oh, they'll find all that out. They will find that out. Where did he get it? Who did it belong to? Did it go missing at some point? But here's the thing. Public school hiring typically involves a background check. I mean, it's just state criminal history checks, reference checks. It's almost something you shouldn't have to point out.
When I was a substitute teacher, I had to jump through 3 hoops.
Yeah. And they were holding 2 of them up. So, look, verification of non-citizen employees is limited. And a public school system, and I hope that there's somebody's got to be held responsible in the Des Moines school system. Do they not? To allow this to happen? Because it can't happen again. And whoever did this sign-off, I think, needs to be held responsible. If that's a suspension or loss of job or something. And they went so far as to give this guy a district-owned vehicle. And so this case, and to Ted's point, it's only isolated. We can find a lot of isolated cases. But this case highlights really the breakdown between federal immigration enforcement and local employers. And then we're not even talking a private company. This is a municipality who's putting this person in charge of your children. And I've said this on the immigration issue for a long time, and I know this always when I talk about this stuff, I get the texts.
Go ahead.
But here's the thing. If you held the employers responsible, if you're not supposed to be hiring someone that doesn't have a legal right to work here, that's on you. And if you wanted people who aren't here legally to not have the incentive, one of the components among a few is you would have to make it that you can't get a legit job, much less for government municipality, if you're not legally here. And in this case, he had a final removal order in place. And when some of these localities label themselves, and if you ever listen to me on this topic, you know where I stand, on a sanctuary city. And that makes them think by standing, and this is about what it equates to, standing up in the middle of a room and yelling, "I'm a sanctuary city." That's about all it is. There's actually no mechanism that exists that gets a municipality, a town, or state to pick and choose laws they want to follow.
It's a rationale.
It's all it is. There's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. When you say I'm a sanctuary city, it doesn't mean that the federal agencies can no longer do their job there, as we've seen whether it's Pritzker or some mayor saying ICE can't do it. Yeah, you don't really have a say in it. It's a federal agency.
To your point, Joe, if you are going to break the law as a political statement, then you need to pay the price for breaking the law.
And that's it. And that's why Tom Homan is saying, test me. And he's telling the mayors and governors, if you interfere with a federal agency, you can be arrested. And they're daring me. Go ahead, arrest me. I think Tom Homan would. I mean, I don't doubt that, actually. So this sanctuary city thing doesn't mean anything. I mean, it makes you feel good. Maybe it's a political statement. I get all that. But it doesn't shield you. It doesn't, by saying you're a sanctuary city, it doesn't take the authority of a federal law enforcement agency away, just so you understand that. Doesn't do any of that. It's just political theater is all it is. And we watched this in Boston, and Mayor Wu doing this stuff, and What happened? We had a couple months ago, we had a massive operation where ICE and other federal agencies in cooperation came into Massachusetts and picked up dozens and dozens of bad persons. I mean, child rape, assault and battery, all kinds of horrific crimes. In previous high-profile cases where non-citizens with these legal troubles have held public positions. And hopefully, in some cases, it has triggered swift policy reactions. But we've got to make sure that some of these mandatory background checks, by definition, they're mandatory. They need to be there, but they're not obviously not being done. They're being done very well. I can refer you to a pretty good agency that could do those background checks. I'd like that government contract. So this is a crazy story that this happened. And what else? Who else are holding jobs like this by government? I mean, how do they even pay this guy? If he's not supposed to be here, is there no reference to, did he have an EIN number? Was he issued a Social Security number? How did they pay this man? To what vehicle? Did he have a bank account? I don't know. These are pretty crazy questions. But folks, we're coming up to the end of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Monday through Thursday, 1 o'clock. You can join me here as I broadcast either from the Cameo Studios or the WCRN Studios. Follow me on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI. And don't forget, this is turned into a podcast, and you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Same bad time, same bad channel, AM 830 WCRN. Joe out, folks.